Hey guys, what's up? It's Kevin for the win, and we're back for another edition of Diablo 3. Hope everybody had a happy new year. 2021 is upon us. Hopefully we'll have a better year this year. Yes, I was away a little bit on hiatus for a bit of a break. Today we're going to be revisiting the Bombardment Crusader build for the pretty much Crusader class. This is one of the emerging S tier builds for the Crusader in Season 22 of Diablo. So pretty much this is what you're going to be rocking. Pretty much mostly the pieces of a con, but then you're going to have the shoulders for the Invoker, and you're also going to be having, I believe they call them the bracers, which is kind of odd here. You're going to have the flail of the charge, which will allow you to do more damage with the steed charge, as well as give you the mobility that you will require for this set. You're also going to be using Captain Crimson's, because this pretty much is splashable with just about every armor in the game. It really helps take particular set armors to their next level. For the rings, we're going to be using Restraint, Focus. That way we can add a little bit of cooldown. We're also going to be using, obviously, the Talisman of Akan, and as well as you see there, the Helm of Akan. For a complete breakdown, I will give you a link to a set built in the description for the skills that we will be using. These are the ones here up on screen for you guys right now. Iron Skin is very vital to be able to do the most damage here, as well as Akarat's Champion. For Condemn, you can use this particular skill or Vacuum. It really depends on your personal taste. I personally prefer Reciprocation over Vacuum, because Vacuum just pulling in enemies towards you, and when you get higher up in the Greater Rifts, you would probably prefer to deal back that damage, because you're going to be taking a lot of damage at higher Greater Rifts. These are the particular passive abilities that you want. This is an absolute necessary for your Kanai's Cube. You must run Mortal Drama, Belt of the Trove, and a Ring of Royal Grandeur in order to use this set. This is where my Paragon is at the moment. So as you can see here, we have 1300 damage that we are doing. This armor pretty much relies heavily on Bombardment as well as Thorns to do all its damage. So when you're optimizing the armor, definitely you want to get the highest possible rolls that you can for Thorns on each of your pieces. Also, you want to keep an eye out for high hit crit ratio on your gloves, in your helm, wherever you can get, high hit crit damage as well. You definitely want to have that just so you can do more damage. Obviously, Thorns is the way to go. The more Thorns you have, the more damage this build will do for you. So what we're going to basically be doing the majority of this particular Greater Rift run is we're going to be casting Bombardment once, and then pretty much thanks to what we have in Kanai's Cube, pretty much Bombardment's going to drop on its own all the time. We'll be using Steed of the Charge, as you see here, to pretty much get some speed so that we're able to clear through high Greater Rifts at super speed runs. Sweep Attack is in here so that we are able to add a bit more defense to ourselves. So it gives us a little bit more toughness, which is something that sometimes this armor is definitely lacking. So that's why we use Sweep Attack on it. And also, you have to, with this armor, always make sure that you have your Akarat's Champion up, as well as your Iron Skin, because your Iron Skin adds more thorn damage to you for a limited amount of time. So extra thorn damage is very important, so you're always going to want to be keeping an eye on whether your Iron Skin is on cooldown if you have it activated, as well as your Akarat's Champion. But for the most part, pretty much as long as you're dropping bombardments, you are going to be clearing through things at very, very fast clear rates. Very high Greater Rifts you'll be able to do with this. For your legendary gems, you need a Boreski's Chip. That is mandatory on this set. You also will want to look into a Bane of the Stricken. And you can also run Goak of Swiftness on here, so it can give you a little bit extra cooldown, because a little bit of extra cooldown on your abilities is quite important, particularly for Iron Skin, but more so for Akarat's Champion. Remember, Akarat's Champion, thanks to the Helm of Akan, already is getting a significant buff to the cooldown, as well as the amount of damage that we're able to do, which is why this armor is able to do as much as you can. If you are not a fan of up-close and personal, in-your-face Crusader action, then you probably will want to take a look at the Season 22 starter build for the Crusader, which I have available in my playlist, that being the Valor Satyr set, as that set in particular uses Fist of the Heavens and Heaven's Fury to deal its damage from a distance, so that's more of a zoning set. This is more for those people who prefer in-your-face, up-close and personal, direct combat type of action, and this is probably going to be the best Crusader build for Season 22, obviously, because there were so many buffs that they did to Bombardment. For example, Belt of the Trove used to be only every 4 or every 6 seconds that it would cast a bombardment. They reduced the time on that, so it's every 4 seconds. Mortal Drama gives you additional bombardments that it drops now, which it didn't before, and it increases the amount of damage. Helm of Akan got buffs. The Invoker set got a bit of a nerf because obviously when we were playtesting it out on the PTB, the secondary ability of Invoker was a little bit too much. You could use Slash or Punishment to be able to get the 2-piece bonus for Bird and Invoker, but honestly, you're really not going to need it for really too much because this armor does well just thanks on everything else that you have set up. But the most important thing is definitely you have to focus on Thorns. This was a question that was asked in the comments the last time that I featured this particular build in the description. Somebody asked why I didn't go for maximum. The reason was because I had a Primal Ancient Legendary that already had maximum on particular Thorns, and I was very close to the maximum roll for that particular slot with Thorns, so it just made more benefit to go for crit. Obviously, when you're building your armor, you're going to be constantly swapping out as you get better pieces. So, as I always say on the channel, keep in mind that whatever particular armor that you see and the ones that I feature here are always works in progress. No armor is 100% complete unless you have a full set of Primal Ancient Legendaries. Then you would probably not try to roll any more for it. So, pretty much what we're going to do here is just cast one Bombardment. We take out the Greater Rift Guardian with ease, Rift Guardian, I should say. Pretty much, if we were higher up in the Greater Rift and we were taking a lot of damage, this is when you want to use Condemn, Reciprocate, because you would just fire all that back with the Thorns damage as well. So you can kind of one-shot a lot of the Rift Guardians that way. Like I said, you can use Vacuum. Vacuum works very, very well as well because it pulls enemies into the vacuum so that you can drop more bombardments. The problem with that is there's a lot of timing, and like I say, when you get later on in the Greater Rifts, it's not as effective as a strategy to try to pull mobs to you because they do so much damage as it is. As you can see there, that was like 2-minute and change clear time on a Greater of 60. We're going to be doing probably an even faster clear time this time. Ironically, this armor excels the higher up in Greater Rifts that you go because since there's more mobs coming at you and they're a lot more aggressive and there's a lot more elite packs, you're able to clear things ironically faster as you go up in Greater Rifts because enemies get a bit more aggro, which actually kind of works in your favor with this armor. You do have to be careful, obviously, when you're not fully optimized, and I make no bones about this, this armor is not 100% optimized as of yet. You have to be careful because, obviously, as bulky as you are with the set, and thanks to Sweep Attack, you can get still into a position where you will get squashed. If you get squashed, a lot of your cooldowns have to reset, which puts you at a significant disadvantage. As always, you have to pay careful attention that your Iron Skin is always up. Case in point there, I believe my Iron Skin was not active at the moment, so I had to wait. Okay. I gotta wait for... Okay, we got our Akaret's champion off, and we got everything back on cooldown, so now we're just gonna kind of mow our way through things. Steed Shard is here for really mobility. You can do some damage with Steed Charge, thanks to Akaret's champion as well. Steed Shard allows you to run through Greater Rifts at high speed so that you can kind of look really for elite packs, which is what you want to do with this armor, and just take those out and then kind of ignore everything else. Keep in mind, because bombardments are automatically going to cast every 4 seconds on their own, you can pretty much Steed Charge through things, and as things are trying to follow you, mobs, the bombardments will just slowly pick them off anyway. This armor does really good at getting some pretty high massacre bonuses if you're in the perfect dungeon layout. This is ironically one of the runs for dungeons where it was kind of good that we have as many mobs and the layout here because there's a lot of mobs coming at us. There's sometimes where there's not a lot of mobs, or you get one of those ones where it's a lot of corridors and you can get lost very easily, obviously, that you're not able to chain massacre bonuses. But this is perfect for massacre chaining. This is really good at Paragon farming, particularly when you're at the higher levels as well, because of just how well it's able to manage certain things. Uh, Ideally, you can probably get this armor up to 2000k damage. Obviously, you have to augment things, so keep that in mind. Augmentations for this particular armor set, I would say you would want, at the lowest, level 80 gems in your armor. If you are still kind of new to Diablo and you're still trying to get this at the power creep that it needs to be able to clear higher grade rifts, I would say... Oop, we took a bad death there. That was quite unfortunate. But I would say if you're trying to farm this armor, you're definitely going to use it for Season 22, and you don't have any augmentations. You could, in theory, at the moment, augment gems at level 70. I would say 70, no lower than 70. So you could get around a 350 to 400 attack boost. Obviously, you're going to want to be going for strength for that. So definitely keep that in mind. As you see, this armor pretty much just in your face. The bombardments are really going to be doing all the damage for you. And just all the our abilities help support it because of the bombardment skill that we picked. Based on the amount of Thorns damage we have is the amount of damage that we actually deal when those bombardments are casted automatically, which is why and how this armor basically works. So that's why it's very important to get the highest rolls of Thorns on your armor pieces where possible. Our armors usually have to focus more so on crit hit damage, which is still very important to be able to do things with like sweep attack and condemn. But your major primary focus should be on Thorns because this is a Thorns build set, which is very unique playstyle. So that was pretty much a 3-minute clear time, very, very fast clear time as well. So that was a Greater Rift 70, I believe. So we're going to be doing a 75 right now. It's going to take us a little longer to clear Rift Guardians because we're not 100% optimized. Keep in mind also, when it comes to this particular armor, the higher you go when you're unoptimized, the longer the clear times. Honestly, even 5-minute, 6-minute clear times with this armor set not fully optimized on Greater Rift 75, 80, 85 is still very good. Don't be like super freaked out. Like I always say, when you get higher up in the Greater Rifts, obviously the mobs have more HP and can do a lot more damage to you, which is why it's very important to make sure you have Iron Skin active as well as Reciprocate, just so you can deal more damage to them. But you have to be careful. Obviously, there's acid on the floor, and there's pitfalls and other things that, you know, can pretty much screw you over when you're trying to go through optimal runs. So you have to keep in mind. If you get a little too hyper aggro with this armor, case in point there, I might have gotten a little too aggro, you will take an unfortunate death. But don't get, like... Don't get discouraged if you don't get a 4-piece chance bonus on a higher Greater Rift. At that point, really, when you're a high Greater Rift, you really just shouldn't even be trying to focus on getting a 4 chance. You're really just trying to level the gem up as much as possible so that you can augment it. So 3 chances that you level it is fine still. You know, Diablo's all about death, unless you're playing on hardcore. If you're playing on hardcore and you can't take a hit, definitely disregard that advice I gave people of don't worry about taking a death, because... when you die hardcore, that's it. You're dead. Your character's as dead as they come. I don't think I would personally recommend this armor for people playing hardcore for Season 22 of Diablo, just because this is one of those armors where if you're not paying too careful attention and you're going a little too greedy on the Greater Rifts really too fast, you probably will get caught like in a pool of acid there or something and die in an inopportune time, and then your season will be over. I don't really recommend that. I think Valor Satyr is a little bit better for trying a hardcore run, and even then I would say probably you gotta do hardcore runs. Probably Whirlwind Barbarian is your best bet, which I do have 2 videos actually for this season focusing on Whirlwind Barbarian, talking a bit about that. That is available in the playlist. If you're enjoying what you see on the screen right now, or you have suggestions for the armor, or you have a own version of this particular armor set that you think I should try out and take a look at, definitely hit me up on the comments. Let me know. Send me a link. I always get back to everybody that comments on Diablo videos. Sometimes it takes me a while. Keep in mind, I was away for the holiday season. I was spending it with, you know, family. At home safe, small gathering, nothing large. So it was, you know, obviously just a household of like 3 or 4 people. So... you know, obviously doing my part in this pandemic. Hope everybody is staying safe, staying healthy, trying to stay active. Now that we're in 2021 and we have, obviously, the vaccine on the horizon, hopefully we're going to be able to get back to some of our normal life. However, even when we get back to normal life and things, I will definitely be continuing my work on the channel. Definitely going to be covering Diablo. As I mentioned before I went on holiday break, I do not believe I'm going to be doing 3 Diablo videos a week for now. Reason being that I've covered just about every armor. Some of them I've covered 2 times already in the season. It would get a bit redundant for me to be focusing on the same armors over and over again, because pretty much all the information that I give you that's available in the playlist, definitely make sure you check out the playlist if you haven't already, is going to be applied to pretty much everything that you see for this season. So really at this point, what I'm going to be doing for the remainder of Season 22 is I'm going to be putting out 1 Diablo video a week. It's always going to be on Wednesday, so that's definitely something that won't be changing. Always keep in mind, 1 Diablo video a week every Wednesday on the channel. What I'm going to be focusing on for now, the remainder of Season 22, is whatever armors I have yet to cover on the channel, which is a short list. That would be the Pestilence armor for the Necromancer, the Tragul armor for the Necromancer as well, Uliana's Spirit, which is for the Monk class, I believe the Shenlong set, which is for the Monk class as well, the Tauraja set, and the Firebird set, that's for the Wizard. Those are pretty much the only armors that I have not featured or covered ever on the channel, so I'm going to be doing those particular armor sets in the near future. I believe I'm going to start covering those armors starting next week, so definitely look out for that. A lot of those armors are very low tier. I'm also going to be doing the Arachnid set for the remainder of Season 22. That's a set that is not very good. It's kind of disappointing. Firebats are not bad, but it's just like not going to be one of the emerging builds. Obviously, it's Mundugu, and the new Helltooth Zombie Bear build is pretty good if it's a push build, so that's one of the things to keep in mind. So that's stuff that's going to be rolling out on the channel next couple of weeks. Obviously, it makes really no sense for me to keep covering the same armors over and over again, unless you guys need like an updated video and you ask me in the comments. Then I'll go back and do another follow-up video if it's requested. But for the remainder of Season 22, we're going to just cover armors that we haven't covered. We'll do 1 Diablo video a week. That should take us pretty much through the month of January and February. And then I believe probably by the end of February going into March, we should be starting to talk about PTBs for Season 23 of Diablo. So then obviously we'll have to look at what changes are going to be brought about in that season. What nerfs they do to armors, what buffs they do, what new weapons, items, changes to the ways items and abilities work that occur in Season 23 of the PTB, and we'll cover that, and then we go. That's a fast clear time as well. That's 4-minute clear time. So this is a Grey Rift 80. This is probably going to take me a bit longer than all of our, probably 5 or 6 minute clear time. It's pretty much the same strategy though. The minute you get into the Greater Rift, make sure you cast your Akretch Champion, then cast your Iron Skin. Keep an eye on the cooldown. Bombardments are going to drop automatically. If you see that a bombardment's not dropping, you can cast it manually yourself. Usually want to reserve that for when you see a Rift Guardian or Elite Pack that you can't find. But definitely what you're going to do is then just kind of keep an eye on your cooldown recharge. And then anytime that Iron Skin needs to be activated again, activate it. Anytime that you need Akretch Champion to be activated, activate it again. The remainder of that time, pretty much when you're going through mobs, use Sweep Attack so that you add more armor to you. Anytime you run into mobs that look like they're going to do a lot of damage to you, use Condemn, Reciprocate. If you're not using Reciprocate and you're using Condemn Vacuum, then what you would want to do is pull the largest amount of mobs into your area so that bombardments can pick them off that way. That's how that particular strategy is. I prefer Reciprocate. I think that works a bit better. As I said, as you get higher up in the Greater Rifts, mobs have more HP and do more damage. So pretty much pulling them in so that bombardments can drop and do damage is a very risky play in my opinion, which is why I prefer to go this way with Condemn. It's really a matter of your own personal preference, which I always try quite a bit to emphasize here on the channel, that whatever you're playing, whatever build, keep in mind it's a matter of personal preferences. Some of the things that I use is because I just prefer to use it because I feel like that works better for the play style that I like to play. But pretty much all the information applies. Another thing that's been addressed in the comments in the last week or two that I did actually reply back to the person. I always make sure to reply back to everybody's comments. And then I do discuss it here on the channel, some of these comments that I get here. One of the comments that somebody asks is, why does my version of Diablo look a bit different from the PC? Well, that's a very easy question. for those of you who are not familiar with this, I actually play on the Nintendo Switch platform for Diablo 3. So I'm always on the go. So always on the go. Switch is a little bit easier to get your Diablo fix for because I can't really take a computer with me. Obviously, if I have a laptop and I'm on the go, it's a different story. But gaming laptops are a bit more expensive than PC rigs. And now in the pandemic, not a lot of us are making too much money right now. So gotta keep that in mind. But I'm playing on the Nintendo Switch platform, so obviously the HUD and the interface are a little bit different. But as I've said many, many times on the channel, all the information that I give you in regards to armor set builds and everything applies to any platform, whether you're playing on PC, whether you're playing on Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, no matter how you play your Diablo 3, all this information, all the things work exactly the same. There is absolutely no difference. All the armor builds work the same. All the rolls, everything, the abilities. All this information that I'm giving you can be applied to the PC just the same way as it can to console. Only difference, really, when it comes to Diablo 3 on the PC and versus console is that there's a little bit of a difference in the HUD. PC users obviously have more freedom over their movement thanks to the fact that they're using mouse and keyboard. They have a bit more precision, so they can cut turns a little bit better than the person working on control stick or analog stick, depending what particular controller they're working on. But those are really the only differences. Frames per second, obviously, there's some graphical fidelities, but when it comes to Diablo already is a very old game. We're looking at 6+ years now, Diablo, maybe even longer than that. So keep that in mind. But that's one of the questions that was asked, so there's your answer to it. Another question is, sometimes people have asked on the channel, well, this armor is fun to play, but it's not going to get you very high up in the career F. Yeah, I cover a wide range of armor, so I do usually, whenever I start talking about Diablo on a season, what I will tend to do is I will cover the S-tier armors first, because those are the ones that people who want to get high placement in leaderboards for a season are going to gravitate towards. Obviously, as I've mentioned many times in all the videos that I've done, if you haven't checked them out, definitely make sure to do so on the playlist, is that when it comes to Diablo, particularly people want to get the highest leaderboard placement for a season, which is why S-tier armors always do well. The S-tier armors that do the best primarily are the ones that can clear greater rifts fast. Case in point, this build that I'm showing you right now, Bombardment Crusader, clears things super fast. This is why it is considered S-tier. This is one of those armors that people really want to see a lot of because they want to know how to do it to be able to get high leaderboard placement. Another armor that clears things super fast is Gears of Dreadland for the Demon Hunter class, which is a spin-to-win set, where you spin around and you pretty much win that way. Whirlwind Barbarian, spin-to-win, where you spin around using Whirlwind and you clear things fast. Those armors in particular are the ones that I know a lot of people like to see. Those are the ones I usually will always cover during the season first, because those are usually the ones that are highly requested. However, I think it's very important to show off our armor builds as well that are not necessarily meta, that are particularly sometimes featured in season, sometimes they're not. Because I think it's very good to be able to keep an open mind to every armor set. In particular, there's certain armors where, yeah, they're really good, and then they're really bad. And sometimes I like to show off the really bad ones just so I could show you guys why, in particular, armor is not used during a season and why it's not necessarily viable, or why sometimes they do buff them and then they become viable. This particular armor I'm using now was not S-tier armor. 2 seasons ago, this was considered F-tier. This would not get you anywhere higher leaderboard placement. This was like crazy buffs and crazy fixes. So that's why it's very important to even look at some of those older armors, because you look at particularly what those armors' drawbacks are, and those are points of interest that you can actually open up dialogue with on Blizzard in the forums, and then, you know, the developers, and then there's potential that those particular underperforming armors actually get buffs in newer seasons, like Season 23. Like I've said before, Firebird is an armor that looks really cool, and on paper it looks like it should work very well, but it doesn't, because it has so many things going against it that it needs like overhauls and fixes and changes and maybe even new items to make it better as well. So this is why on my channel particularly I will cover, meta, and then sometimes I will cover non-meta things, because I want to draw attention to some of the lesser-known armors that need maybe some fixes by the developers, and this is why it's important to open the dialogue. But, as always, thanks for watching. Make sure to give us a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week for the next Diablo video. Till next time.